Welcome to Throw Off the Lines, the podcast where we navigate life's changes, explore new horizons, and embrace the journey. I'm your host, Stephanie York, an executive coach with a passion for charting new courses on the water and in life. Ready for some total change? Let's dive in. I'm so happy people listen to my podcast, and I'm surprised. I flew across the country and went to a wedding and met some lovely women who had listened to it, and I'm so impressed by the women of our country and the women I meet on airplanes. I met a lovely lady on the airplane flying from Boston back to LA. It's impressive how we're all making it through life, and at this age we're still so vibrant, so full of life, and I'm just so happy to be a part of you all. It just makes me happy. Anyways, so today's topic is looking at anger, because I've had to address anger in my own life, and I think I didn't know how much anger was controlling my depression. I also didn't know how much anger was fueling my drinking and how much it was keeping me really stuck. And so I've been doing a deep dive on some topics while I was taking the season off. And I've got some more stuff I'm going to be launching later on. I'm working on a really big project, which I'm happy to introduce you all to as soon as it's done. But I just wanted to say, this might be an episode you want to take your journal out for and start to take notes, because this topic, what I found, is worked its way kind of seamlessly into all aspects of my life. Anger, and how I deal with it. I did an episode on ADHD and the justice signal that I have in my life. When I see an injustice, I get upset, and then that stews in me. And but we're going to talk a little bit more about what those things do. I have a whole episode on little heartbreaks and how seeing injustices break my heart. And those little heartbreaks, I carry them with me. And I didn't know that those things were adding up inside of me to cause a secret anger. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through the episode. And you don't have to be an angry person to have anger inside of you. And I'm going to talk about why, as women age, we often handle anger a lot better or don't talk about it because we've matured, hopefully. But let's dive into this. Anger is one of the most misunderstood emotions for women. That's what I have found in most of my reading and most of my research, especially as we get older. But what if our anger wasn't a flaw? What if there wasn't anything wrong with it, but it was a signal to us? And that is, I want you to really think about that. When I get angry, I recognize it as a signal or a symptom of something that's going on with me. So if I'm driving down the road and I get really angry and I yell at somebody, or if I'm really mean to somebody on the other side of the counter, it's usually something's built up, I take a pause. If I have an opportunity, I apologize. If I have a way to make up for it, I do. It does not make it better. But I look at it as a signal. It's not a flaw inside of me, because I'm constantly doing work with myself and on myself. It's a symptom or signal of something that's going on with me, and it's a great time for you to reflect. But so many people are mired so deep in anger that getting to that point where I just barked at somebody, stop, reflect, critical thinking, that's almost impossible. And I know that when I was in a cycle of drinking to cover up my stress and anger, not knowing that's what I was doing, I know that I could not have been reflective after I was mad, because I was so reactionary in a chemical response in my body. So now that I'm not drinking and I'm trying to eat really healthy and I'm trying really hard to get a lot of sleep, I'm able to look at my anger as a signal and a symptom, and then try to look at what led up to it so that I don't have as many of those interactions. It's hurtful to me. I hate when I hurt somebody or yell at somebody. It makes me feel so little. So that's why I'm doing this episode. The goal is to explore the different types of anger that I've discovered for myself, and what are the causes, and then some healthier ways. We've got some steps to take to try to deal with it a little bit better. Just understanding the subtle signs that you may be experiencing anger. I was in a marriage that wasn't fulfilling for either of us, him or myself. And my anger over the years turned to bitterness, and that bitterness was coming out, and that's when I knew I had to leave, because I am not that person. And I feel bad for the relationship and what may have happened to it, but that's another podcast episode. So I had to stop blaming myself and look inside. I'm not an angry person. So here we are working on what the different types of anger are. And when I recognize these types in myself, I'm much more able to say, okay, that's happening. Why is that happening? This particular type of anger, boom, boom, boom. Here we're going to go. And I'm going to try and help you see yourself in these as well. So what I really hope to do with the second season of my podcast, because all the women I'm talking to are predominantly my age. They're premenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal, and we all have very similar things that we're struggling through. And I just want to normalize anger for women in general, and normalize anger for women who are older. Anger is valid. It's not shameful. We are often angry for the right reasons. And, yes, misplaced anger is malicious and can be really horrible for the people around it. And it's gotten that nickname Karen. But by making these stereotypes about women who are portraying anger, when you see an angry person, it's often a very hurt person. And you see an angry person, they're often very afraid. And their anger and their fear is isolating them further in their anger. When I see somebody really angry, I see how hurt they are. I can't very often do anything about it, but calling them a Karen, or not allowing them to have that angry moment, or not allowing justified episodes of anger in a woman be there and present and recognizing it for what it is. I'm angry because I have a good reason. It's a justified anger, and belittling somebody or tossing it aside. And then it adds to our anger inside when people do this. We feel injustice, and then we feel more hopeless, and sometimes even deeper, darker feelings. I'm mad that this is happening to that person. I'm mad this is happening in society. I'm mad this is happening to me. Are justifiable. You are allowed to be angry. It's what you do about that to the outside world and how you treat yourself in that anger that I want to try to talk about today. So, you're allowed to be angry there. I said it. You can say it out loud too. You're allowed to be enraged. You're allowed to be bitter and upset. And, it's just what you're doing about it externally and internally that we want to address. So there was a study, the link is going to be in the episode notes, about how women feel more angry as they get older. Maybe we've had a buildup of our whole lives where we've seen injustices, sometimes repeated over and over, injustices done to us. We're angry in a relationship that we're not being fulfilled in, or we're being demeaned, or whatever the reasons are. We could go on to that list. But, how are you expressing it? When women are feeling more anger, they're expressing it less and less. So they're internalizing it frequently. I love the book Mel Robbins wrote about let them and let me, and the idea behind, I see somebody who's made me angry and I'm just not going to participate in that. I'm not going to let them affect me. I'm going to let them do what they're doing. But so often it does impact us. And we are more angry as we get older, but expressing it less, so it's going somewhere. Think about the last time you felt anger. This is why I recommend that you get a journal out. When's the last time you were angry? Was it expressed? Was it hidden? Or did you transform it into something else? What I was doing when I was drinking my heaviest, I realized I would have anger during the day, anger residual from other things, and it manifested itself as stress. I was carrying around a lot of stress. My shoulders were tight. I didn't feel like I could act on something, and then 5 o'clock would hit and I would be able to start drinking and cooking and check out. And when you have a lot of anger, how are you dealing with it? Did you do something about it? Take these notes. When's the last time you felt angry, and what did you do about it? Did you feel like it was pointless to express it? Do you feel heard by the source of your anger, by the people around you? Did you feel like it was something that you're struggling with? if it looks like some of these more common types of anger that I'm going to talk about, if any of these things happen, and these are regular patterns of behavior, hopefully, if the last time you were angry, they fall into one of these, we can find 7 or more ways for you to deal with it. So write down, when's the last time you were angry? Pause the podcast and write out what happened before and what happened after. This is something I do when I have a burst of anger. I think about, okay, often I haven't eaten because I forget to eat. And often I'll say, all right, I did not eat and I went out and I did shopping, or I worked really hard with some clients and I was trying to get stuff done and I wasn't taking care of myself. I'm tired and I went into a situation unprepared. It stressed me out. And then the next thing happened, I got angry. I barked at somebody. I screamed at a driver on the road. I really don't want to do road rage, but sometimes I'm swearing at people. And then I realize I'm following into a pattern of behavior that is screaming at people on the street. And that's not helping anybody. So I want you to think about the different types of anger expression. If you just started the podcast back up after having written down the last time you were angry, what happened prior to it, and what happened since, I want to talk about 4 different patterns. There's one called the stewer. And this is anger turned inward. You know, you're simmering beneath the surface. And it often shows up as headaches or insomnia or depression. And I realized in my relationship, I had started to work on it 5 or 6 years before I asked for a divorce. And in that, I was asking for needs to be met. And I was definitely drinking too much. And I was getting headaches. I was suffering insomnia, massive amounts of insomnia, which then fueled my feelings of inadequacy. And I was downright depressed. And I did pursue therapy. That helped. I read a lot of books. I tried to address, I stopped drinking. And I tried to address the core issues of why I was depressed, not sleeping, having headaches, feeling really poorly, and not having energy. And then I found out that I had anger about things that the other people in my life that I was asking to get support from, they weren't meeting me. And I had to address whether they would meet me in solving the problems that I was stewing on, or if they wouldn't. And when I realized that the people in my life were not willing to or couldn't make changes I needed them to make, that I had to take responsibility for myself. It really helped me move away from depression, headaches, insomnia. But if you're stewing on things, and if you have headaches or you're not sleeping well and you have depression, outside of anxiety over deadlines and problems with your family, you might want to look at whether there are underlying reasons that you're angry. Are you angry about things that you've wanted and needed to change and you haven't been able to get them to change? So being a stewer, and I'm going to have a whole short episode on what the stewer does and ways for the stewer to tackle their problems. The next one I want to talk about is the volcano. And we all know somebody who's the volcano. Thankfully, I haven't really been the volcano. I don't think. Maybe my friends would tell you something different. But the volcano is somebody who suppresses their anger, suppresses, they're never angry. A bunch of bad stuff happens to them. And then all of a sudden it erupts in explosive bursts. And I know people who just rage and they go into this red blank. They actually check out. They say they don't remember what happened. And this is somebody who will handle it, and then explode. And I'm going to do a short episode on the volcano. And if this is you, if you feel like, I'm handling everything, and then all of a sudden you go to the kids' softball game and you go off on somebody's mom, or you are in your car and somebody cuts you off and you explode and you go into a rage, or maybe you're in a store where you don't know anybody and you go off on the person who's on the other side of the counter or the person who's helping you. That's the volcano. That's not the stewer. That's not just having headaches or depression. That is an explosive outburst. So maybe you'll want to listen to that short episode I'm going to do on that. Then the third one we're going to talk about is the leaker. And this is indirect expression. And this is something that I definitely was doing as I became more bitter in my marriage. You're indirectly expressing anger. You're sarcastic all the time. You are passive aggressive. You are nitpicking. And I see this in marriages, both men and women. But right now, I'm just speaking to my female audience. I mean, hey, if you're a guy and you're listening to this and it's helping you, God bless you. I want people to be able to handle their anger and not handle it, but feel better. I want people to be happier. So if you're a leaker, then your anger is a festering thing inside of you that is then blowing up and coming out and affecting other people. And if you're nitpicking your friends, nitpicking your kids, nitpicking your spouse, and nothing is making you happy. Oh, they sucked their teeth. Oh, they didn't pick up their stuff. And you're slamming stuff and you're angry and you're being sarcastic. If you're out in public and you're making sarcastic jokes about your significant other or your children or your friends, this is a leaking anger. And you really need to look at why you feel the need to put people down. If you are watching or listening to other people on TV and you're picking at them and you're making sarcastic comments, what about them is making you feel angry? What is going on in your world? So I have a short episode on the leaker as well. And then there's the constructive expressor. This is the fourth pattern we want to look at. This person is very direct, very assertive communication, and it uses anger to set boundaries or to drive change. And we all know this person. And sometimes, I know I've been this person 100%. When I was working a full-time job and I was a single parent and I was kind of forced to coach on the soccer team. I was an assistant coach and I'm managing girls, and I've got parents who didn't want an assistant coach coming up to me and giving me instructions and saying that they should have been the coach. And I had a lot to deal with, and I didn't handle my anger well. I had to be assertive, and I was sometimes too aggressive in how I asserted my authority. And I had to set boundaries with people, and I was very aggressive. I wasn't a leader. I wasn't able to back off, see what they were doing, and manage it very well. And I wanted to make them change their behavior. So I was way too constructive, expressively, this is how it's going to happen, and I'm the one who's doing this. And that anger came out in a way that it didn't help the situation. I'm using me as an example, but constructive expressor, I'm going to have a short episode on that as well, might be a little bit harder to define. If you think that you're very direct and people say that you're very direct and they're saying it in a good way, that's great, but you might want to see, am I expressing anger in how assertively I speak to people, including our children? We're often very expressive and constructive and critical with those people that we feel that we're in charge of. So if you're also a boss, this is not a healthy mode to be in. If your upper management is telling you what to do and you're overwhelmed and you're not able to get your employees to do what you want, and you're becoming incredibly bossy, leadership skills will help you possibly manage that anger more. But listen to the shorter version of that. So let's jump into 7 causes of anger in midlife. I just want you to think about what to explore if you're looking at, okay, I'm one of these things. What are some of the reasons that are causing me to be one of these types of anger people? And one of them is a loss of independence. And, especially as we're aging, I'm not losing independence, but some people are losing their ability to drive. They've lost their finances, so they're not independent anymore. They're tied to a job that they hate. You've lost mobility. I recently got hurt. I've got vertigo right now for some crazy reason. I'm going to do a whole episode on vertigo, doggone it. And financially you're suffering. You're not able to take yourself places. You're at the mercy of other people. This is for women who are aging or people who are aging. And that mobility issue, when I broke my back, I didn't have the ability to go places. I wasn't angry, thank goodness, but a loss of independence can cause a lot of anger as we're getting older. And then chronic health issues. I am seeing this more and more. And as I'm talking to women that are in the 45 to 65 bracket, where I just kind of am coming through, we've got pain that we don't understand. We have fatigue that is just resting on our shoulders, and we're still trying to do everything we've done with lowered energy levels. Hearing or vision changes, hearing issues we may not even be aware of are so isolating. And I have family members. I have a big, big family. And I know my mom would get really angry when she couldn't hear people. She started to feel like people were talking behind her back. You might not know you have a hearing issue, or you might know you have a hearing issue and you can't go take care of it. And that anger starts to build up inside of you. So if you're one of those 4 types that I talked about and you're taking notes, and you can go back and look at the last time you were angry, maybe stop and pause this again and say, do I have a health issue that's causing me to be angry? Did I react because I'm suffering from pain? I'm just beyond tired and expecting to do too much. Am I suffering from hearing or vision or more impaired cognitive abilities? Another huge, huge reason that we are suffering from things is hormonal shifts from menopause. And they cause chronic pain issues, fatigue, hearing and sight issues, vertigo I'm having. Maybe you aren't understanding why your body's going through these issues. And when you have an extreme drop in estrogen, you get angry. It's just like when we had period cycles and you get really moody right before your period. It's the same kind of hormonal shifts. So when you go back and look at that last episode of anger, was there anything to do in there that felt like it did when you had PMS? Is there a hormonal shift that you're going through? Is it something you can talk to your doctor about? And I'm going to have more episodes on hormones as well, because I think that it's really important for us to talk about that. Is it grief and loneliness? At this age, some of us are losing our spouse to unforeseen circumstances, or we're getting divorces, and sometimes we haven't been given time to grieve. Grief is a different process for every single person. If you've lost a relationship or lost a loved one, this is real, and with it comes anger. And when you lose friends, sometimes they cut us off. Sometimes we have to cut them off because of their unhealthy behavior. If you've lost a role, maybe your child has gone on to college or moved out or gone on with their lives, and you're no longer that identity of a mom and a caretaker. This is real grief. And if you haven't built up your friend circle, and I have a whole episode on women and loneliness, and I have a whole episode on how to develop friendships from season 1 of the podcast, having grief and loneliness and not addressing it can absolutely cause anger. It doesn't register as anger for us, though. It starts to grow and build, and we don't know that we're angry. So think about it and see if that's something that's brewing for you, and then let's try to address that. Cognitive changes, memory lapses. Come on, I've been having memory lapses since my 20s, and we're all under a lot more pressure. There's not only is our microcosm, us, and the things that I'm talking about at odds, but our macrocosm. We're supposed to be up on current events. We're supposed to be eating really well and exercising and taking care of our kids, and there isn't enough time in the day. So with all of that, we get a lot of confusion. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance in our lives, and we have to stop and pause. I tell all of my clients to meditate. Take 10 deep breaths right now. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. 5, even if that's all you can do. You can do that when you're sitting in your car and driving. And that helps a little bit quiet the voices. But if you're dealing with cognitive changes like you forgot stuff or you're confused, there's too much coming at you, it doesn't mean you're aging poorly. It means there's way too much going on in your life, and it's going to cause anger and disruption. Now, another thing is we want to address injustices. If you feel like there's a lot of injustices in the world and you don't have a platform to talk about those, because we're all having to repress opinion often in society right now, then that's going to lead to anger. And is that something that you need to journal about? Is it something you need to find a forum to talk about? Do you need to find a like-minded person? Do you need to find a Republican women's group or a Democratic women's group or a moderate women's group to go where you can discuss your feelings about these injustices? And if it's gender inequalities, which we are going to be finding, I feel like a lot more as society continues to make this major shift that we're making. Are you feeling unheard at work? Has somebody taken your work? These are things that are very specific to women in this generation from 45 to 65, We're aging out of our jobs. Some of us are being let go. This is real anger. And we need to find a way to work through it. So, which one of these things that I just talked about feels most alive for you right now? Which do you recognize in the women around you? And which one do we need to start working on? Loss of independence, driving, finances, mobility, health issues, hormone shifts, grief, loneliness, cognitive changes, injustices, gender inequality. Which one of these things might be the first topic that you can work on? Write it down in your journal and then start Googling it and looking for answers. So, research is finding that aggressive expression does decrease when self-control increases. I don't want you to just self-control yourself out of anger. I want you to be able to recognize through these 4 different types we talked about where your anger might be. And I want you to start to recognize that last time you were angry, what led up to it? What did you do after it? Did you suppress it or did you do something proactive? When you break apart what made you angry and you recognize what caused you to be in that moment, you are then in control of recognizing the next time before it happens. And then after it happens, recognizing how you can process that anger so it isn't just stuck inside of you or stuck in the world. And that intensity of anger may increase and it might lead to more stewing. If you're stewing on it or you're doing passive aggressive things, that eats at your subconscious and it doesn't handle it in a funny way. It just continues to stay inside of you. And I'm hoping that you're able to, through some of these steps, fight through it. So key insights, let's better control doesn't always mean you're healthier outcomes. So we don't want to just control it. We want to work on healthier outcomes. And notice if your anger is being managed or suppressed because that's not processing it. So here's some steps. 5 steps. So we can write these down. 1 is awareness. Identify your anger type and your triggers and go and listen to whatever one of the type episodes, the short episodes I'm going to put out. Pause and reflect. What's underneath this anger? Is it fear? Is it grief? Is it frustration? Is it loneliness? If you're in a relationship that you're not getting what you need, you're not fulfilled and you're lonely, of course it's going to stew and build up and you're going to be nitpicky. Do something about it. You have every right to lead a fulfilling life. You really do. Journal, talk with a trusted friend, move your body, get out in nature, start a walking group, go for a run, go to a gym, lift weights at home, put a program together that will help you be healthier physically. It will help you manage mentally and emotionally anger. And if you cannot get enough help from your own resources, always talk to a therapist, always find a psychologist, always talk to your general doctor, your practitioner. They're trained to help you with depression and anger, and there's specialists within medical organizations that can help you. Do not feel stuck. Use constructive anger to set boundaries. You can say no when something is impacting you and causing you to be angry. You can protect your time. If you're over volunteering, say no and create those boundaries. Challenge unfairness. If something is happening at your local organization or at your school, don't yell at somebody. Go to the PTA and say, I'm noticing this is happening. Can we put a committee together to affect that? If something's happening locally, go to your local congressperson, your local community member, your church, and say, I'm noticing this is happening and I'm getting upset about it. Can we put something together to handle this? Seek more connection. Always seek connection with groups that align with your beliefs. And, coaching. I help a lot of my people process feelings, even though I'm helping them build their businesses. A lot of life coaching is about processing angry. Are you angry about that? All right, let's work on that. And get therapy to break through cultural silence. You do not have to be silent about your anger. Anger is, for me, a symptom that I'm out of touch with something. And when I assess it and I look at it, I realize I need to address something in my life. I need to reach out to a friend. or I need to let go of something that's causing me to be angry that I have no control over. And seek connection in your community. I would do that whether you're angry or not anyways, but I just want everybody who's listening to this to understand that anger is not a weakness. It's wisdom and energy asking for direction. You're angry because you know better. You're angry because something is off. And that's intuition. And you need to listen to your anger. Why are you angry? And what are you going to do about it? Ask yourself for a direction on this anger. What is happening that's causing you to outburst or nitpick your kids or your spouse? And, at this stage in your life, your anger can be the map back to your voice and back to your power. And I talk a lot about that in other episodes. But if you're angry, use it as a torch to look backwards and say, where did I lose my way? And then start that journey back. This week when anger shows up, will you stuff it down or are you going to listen to what it's telling you? Will you get that journal out and say, ooh, I yelled at the coffee person. Why did I yell at that coffee person? What happened leading up to that moment? And how can I mitigate that? How can I cut that off? How can I change that so I don't feel that way anymore? So the next 4 little episodes I'm going to post are going to be about our different anger types. And that's going to be the stewer, the volcano, the leaker, and that constructive expressor who we all know, each and every one of these people. And at any given time, I've been one of them. So I hope that this has helped you. And please send me any questions or, any things that you learned. I love to share from my listeners things that, hey, I learned this about myself. And I want to do more interviews with some of my listeners because I've got some amazing women who've been listening to this podcast and enjoying it. And it just warms my heart. And I feel like that everybody has an amazing story. You all are fighting the good fight. You're all trying to live a better life and impact those around you in positive ways. And man, it's impressive. And you're my heroes. So I look forward to sending out another episode to you soon. Take care. Thank you for joining me on Throw Off the Lines. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe for future episodes and extras, and leave a review, share it with someone who needs a total inspiration. You can also find us on Facebook or Instagram and our Throw Off the Lines website. If you want to be a guest or have questions for the host, sign up on the website and we'll get back to you. Until next time, throw off those lines and live your best life.